Mr. Anubhav Singh sir, who got an All India rank of 34 in the CSE 2022.
I personally never studied for my options. कि आपका कभी प्री भी नहीं निकलेगा, कभी आप इंटरव्यू तक पहुंच के वापस आ जाएंगे, तो ये मोक्ष 6 अटेम्प्ट के बाद ही मिलता है। एक बैलेंस्ड पर्सनालिटी ढूंढता है यूपीएससी। यू शुड ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द फिलॉसफी ऑफ यूपीएससी। यूपीएससी एक ऐसा एग्जाम है दैट यू आई पे 100 रुपीज और 200 रुपीज टू अप्लाई फॉर। मेंस में व्हाट इज योर बिगेस्ट बैटल टू फिनिश दोज एग्जाम्स?
Why did you choose to be a civil servant?
वाई सिविल सर्विसेज का ऐसा कोई बड़ा प्लेटोनिक आंसर होने की जरूरत नहीं है। यू कैन हैव अ वेरी सिंपल आंसर, बॉस आई लाइक टू हैव अ गुड हाउस, आई लाइक टू हैव अ गुड कार, है ना, आई लाइक टू हैव दैट सोशल प्रेस्टीज इन द सोसाइटी। मेरे को चाहिए तो चाहिए। अगेन पीपल से कि एक कार्ड अच्छा है, एक कार्ड ऐसा कुछ नहीं। इन ऑल कार्डर्स यू टेक वेल टेकन केयर ऑफ एंड लाइफ हैज बीन टफ एट लबासना। आफ्टर कल मैं अगर 2 जगह काम करता हूँ एंड दे पब्लिश इन द न्यूज़पेपर्स इनने अच्छा काम किया, तो तीसरे दिन वही सेम पत्रकार विदाउट गिविंग अ थॉट और विदाउट ब्रेकिंग अ स्वेट वो ये भी डालेगा कि इनने इतना बुरा काम किया।
Hello everyone. Welcome to the special interview conducted by the Magazine Committee, Department of Political Science, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College. Over the past few weeks, the committee has had the privilege of hosting people such as Professor Manoranjan Mohanty sir, Rituraj Sarma, an IRMS officer, IPS Asna Chaudhary, etc. The committee will also be conducting interview with such people as Christophe Zeffelet, King's College London, Shiv Shankar Menon, the former National Security Advisor to Government of India, Professor Ashok Acharya, Professor Gul Muhammad Wani, Kashmir University, etc. So myself, Piyush, a second year political science student, I'm your host today. Along with me is Sania. So over to you, Sania.
Hi everyone, Sanya this side, a first year political science student. I will be co-hosting with Piyush today. In this interview, we have with us Mr. Anubhav Singh sir, who got an All India rank of 34 in the CSE 2022 and is currently an IAS officer. He is an alumnus of our department. In this interview, he will be sharing his strategy and life as an IAS officer. Today, we also have Ms. Simple Ma'am with us. We welcome you, Ma'am, and we request Ma'am to kindly give her introductory remarks.
Thank you so much, Tanya. In fact, it's a proud moment for a teacher to be interacting on this platform with an old student who has made his mark in the toughest competitive examination of the country and is now an IAS officer. But for all that, it is still the same Anubhav of old, with his streak of brilliance undimmed by his humility and of how grounded he is as a person. So I remember teaching him in 2015. That was the year he graduated, I think. And he came across as this, and even earlier, I believe in first year also I was taking
Yes,
classes.
ma'am. Colonialism,
Yeah.
we call it.
Colonialism, nationalism. So he came across as this very earnest and diligent pupil who shone in class discussions and actively participated in departmental activities as well. Especially, I remember that year there was this international conference on federalism where he played an active role. Two qualities that I think I would associate with Anubhav right from the beginning are one, this spark in him that was always seen, and secondly, this extremely polite demeanor. And I think both will go a long way in making him a humane and an upright and a sensitive civil servant. So I wish him all the very best for his road ahead. And on behalf of the Magazine Committee of the Department of Political Science, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, I welcome you heartily, Anubhav, to this online interview, which will find expression in the departmental magazine, Chakraveer. Yes. And now I hand over the proceedings to the Magazine Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we would like to invite the teacher in charge of our department, Dr. Saima Iqbal ma'am, to give her introductory remarks.
Good morning to all, and welcome Anubhav to the Department of Political Science.
Thank you, ma'am.
And other faculty members who are the part of this particular program today, that is the interview of Anubhav Singh with of our college when we were not there. But we had an opportunity to be the part with him right now. So we welcome Anubhav, and we welcome all the students to interact with Anubhav, and I hope that we'll have a good interaction with Anubhav, and he will share his personal experiences with our students so that they can get more inspired to be the part or to be more involved or get an opportunity to be with you, Anubhav. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving ahead with our special guest, let's have a small glimpse of his life first. Sir's journey is motivating and stands testimony to the never giving up attitude. He did his schooling from St. Mary Jaipuria and graduated from University of Delhi with an honors degree in political science in 2015. He also served as an assistant professor in Lucknow University. He was able to crack the examination in the fifth attempt with an All India rank of 34. So, a warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Piyush. And first of all, at the outset, I'd like to thank Simple Ma'am and Saima Ma'am for such a generous introduction. I'm not sure I'm entirely worthy of it. But
Anubhav,
thank you nevertheless, ma'am.
sorry to
Uh,
interrupt, Anubhav. There are other
yeah.
faculty members also
Right.
in
And
this.
all the other faculty members and
Yeah,
JRS
because
Chakravyuh members and everyone.
yeah,
Is this interview getting recorded by any chance? Are we
yes,
recording
I
it? Okay.
suppose so.
Because I tend
Yes,
to
yes.
lean on the libertarian spectrum, so that is why I just want to be cautious like that.
Because
Because,
there are the conveners of the Chakravyuh committee as well,
right.
uh, and uh, political science association committee as well. So I wanted
Yes.
that those also should be introduced here before we move further, because
Right, ma'am, please, ma'am.
right. So
Mhm.
Dr. Rityusha Tiwari is also here, who's here with us. Then the convener of the Chakravyuh committee, I don't think so. He's here. He is Krishna Murari, and the co-convener is Gadde Surya. So it is their initiative that such kind of effort has to be made with regard to the Chakravyuh, which is, I think, we have started this magazine. This is the third edition of the magazine, third and fourth edition combined together. So we wanted to get you know with regard to this committee, and
Yes, ma'am.
it was during the COVID time that we have started this particular magazine. So I think uh, this kind of interview the uh, with the students who are already who had such a great experience, and they are the part of the UPSC. We are having of the first hand experiences and their interviews in this particular magazine. So sorry to interrupt, but welcome to the
Mhm.
department and to the magazine.
Not at all, ma'am. My heartfelt gratitude to the whole team and everybody in the faculty and everybody who's joined. Thank you for having me over. It is truly an honor to be on this platform. I would at the outset like to say that I would want this conversation to be very honest and frank. Otherwise, there's no point of doing this really. So, and I mean, if you're taking a valuable times out, might as well make something out of it.
Sure.
And the only reason I'm doing it is because I have the utmost regard for Simple. Because otherwise, I don't know, not a big fan of these the things. I don't think there's so much content online. I don't want to bombard everybody else with more content. So, I mean, I hope you are able
Not at
to.
all, Anubhav. Not at
Uh,
all. Not at all.
yes,
In fact, this is, this is between you and the students. Students, you
ma'am.
can
Right.
see from the numbers of the students, they're
Yes.
eagerly waiting to listen to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, I think we can begin now, Piyush. I think you'll be moderating. How do we go about it?
Yeah, so along with me, Sanya. So Sanya will.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm moving to Sanya. Yeah, Sanya.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. And let's start with the interview. We have prepared a questionnaire based on the questions that I have got from the students.
Hmm.
So the very first question is, why did you choose to be a civil servant?
Right. So, why is a very, very personal question. Because I usually nudge people to have their own answers to this question. I am still dealing with this question. Because I mean, since you guys are students of political science, that is how Hegelian dialectics proceeds. There is the thesis, antithesis, and the synthesis. So you want something, you get something, then you want something, then there's the antithesis, then you get something, but then again you're like, even now I'm contemplating why IAS. ठीक है मतलब I did it, but क्या बोलते हैं, why IAS? Because there's much more to the word. Like you can also be John Rawls. So then why just IAS? So it's a very, very personal question. And I think a lot of, yeah, I might have a lot of political science references. ठीक है, तो I hope you guys can get it. जैसे जो main debate एक liberalism versus communitarianism में, what is the big debate? Is the individual an unencumbered self? है ना? Or is it the community that is determining what is best for us? तो पता नहीं, probably it's because I was born and brought up in Lucknow. Maybe it's the set of people that were around me, which would have influenced. But now that I think about it, I think IAS, matlab, yeah, civil services at large, and IAS in particular, it is that opportunity for somebody who likes to explore and work in diverse fields. Like for somebody like me, I would like to work in one field today. Like for instance, even when I go out in the field today, आज मुझे अगर अमृत सरोवर में if I like to work on water rejuvenation, tomorrow I might like to work on Miyawaki, and the day after that I might just like to work on economic processes or food processing, and the next day after that I would like to work on the agricultural output of farmers, even to the extent where I'd like to go and do farming myself. So like it's a very, very personal question. What do you like about things? Say, personally, somebody might call it an eclectic attitude, and the job does well to help you with that. Like if you have different experiences in life, then it can help you have those diverse experiences. Apart from that, you can have a lot of international exposure as well. Say, for instance, I see myself as going out and representing India at global forums, maybe WTO or GATT, or whatever, or at the UN. So you can also do that. So I think it's a great springboard for a lot of other good things that can happen in your life, and it provides a lot of opportunities very early on in your life. Then there's for me, again, it's a very personal thing. And secondly, there's a lot of social aspect to it. Obviously, you're helping people out and you are interacting with a lot of people. So I don't think the job is your routine job like that. For instance, you go to the office and say you sit it out. And like when I interact with my peers in engineering departments, it only reinforces my belief. For instance, I know a lot of people who are very successful, let's say at Google also. So, but what are they working on? They might be just working on one small thing, for instance, the pop-up. Like what pop-up is going to come. And they might spend the next course of their lives doing that. But this year, again, for instance, I'm posted in Prayagraj right now. So I will be a part of hosting the Mahakumbh, which happens once in 12 years, and 40 crore odd people will be coming here. And there's so many facets to it. There's the urban mobility plan, there's the sanitation plan of things, there's the security aspect of things, and you're part of everything. So, I mean, it's a very, very satisfying job in that sense. But having said that, you might not have the same palette. So what works for you or what doesn't work for you is for you to figure out. And और इसमें मतलब people tend to create these hierarchies कि why civil services का ऐसा कोई बड़ा platonic answer होने की जरूरत नहीं है. You can have a very simple answer. Boss, I like to have a good house. I like to have a good car. है ना? I like to have that social prestige in the society. मेरे को चाहिए तो चाहिए. So then, like if you want it, you want it. If that's what makes you get up at 5 in the morning and study for it, that's fine enough. That's good enough. There's no, we create these hierarchies. You should have the right answer. So I don't think that we should be judgmental about these things. You can just want it for your parents. It can be as simple as that. My parents always wanted and anyway, Indians, kids don't have a mind of their own for a very long time. I don't think we
That's so
apply.
true.
If you just want it for your parents, then get it for your parents. So the why has to come from within. Because as you know, the preparation can be of a longer duration, right? It may go on for 2 years or 4 years. So for 4 years, how do you get yourself motivated? And you can't get up every day and say, I am going to create a better country. That's not going to help you get up at 5 every day. So it will be a mix of both professional reasons and personal reasons. So I think, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how I like to think about things. Even now, I find myself contemplating the question, why IAS? What are bigger platforms to help the country out? I mean, it obviously provides me a good platform, but uh, we should not be a frog in a well. Sometimes, a lot of times, what happens is once we clear this exam, we tend to think that this is the be all and end all of things. This is not. There are much bigger platforms. Like I hold philosophers and people who it's ideas that radically change the world, right? It was John Rawls' theory of justice, and the rest of all affirmative action policies are a footnote to that. So, if you have Ronald Dworkin writing on it, or you have Michael Sandel, or you have Amartya Sen, if everybody is talking those ideas of justice. We are at the implementing end of things. The bigger game changers are the ideas. So if you really want to So it's one way to get into the fray, and then there are much bigger things at play. So yes, that is it. I am sorry
Thank you,
if
sir.
that was convoluted. Anyway,
All right. Thank you, sir. So, since you talked about the diversity in this job, so
hmm.
how is life like being an IAS? What is your daily routine and what are your roles and responsibilities?
Okay, life like being an IAS, I'm not gonna give an academy type का answer. ठीक है कि what I eat and what I get. मतलब life is hectic. ठीक है. But that is what you choose. Life is hectic in the sense कि there are no fixed hours. It's a very flexible kind of a job. But ये इसका pro भी है, ये इसका con भी है. ठीक है. तो pro है कि क्या बोलते हैं, there are times when you can मतलब you might have a relatively freer time. Like you don't have to punch in at 9, let's say, or punch in at 10. You can go late someday. But then there will be days when you'll be coming back at 12 also. Okay. So life gets quite hectic especially once you start getting independent charges. For instance, जैसे अभी I'm under training. Initially, you do the attachments at various departments. So then that can be relatively relaxed. But now that I've done 2 charges, I was a zonal officer in development authority, and now I have a blocks charge. So I'm the block development officer for a block called Shingverpur Dham in Prayagraj. So now life is relatively much more hectic. Right. For instance, that let's say ki I have to plan a 3-day Mela that's going to Kilta, that is coming up on 29th, 30th, and 31st. Then the preceding night I'll have to stay back till like let's say 10, and I would have to make sure that there's enough sanitation, there's enough drinking water for people who will be visiting. Then I would have to set duties for people and contingency plans in place, right? Stuff like that. So it's a very flexible nature of the job. How is life? Otherwise, life is good. You're taken care of right from your probation days. You get a decent house, you get a vehicle and stuff like that. So yes, you're taken care of. So I don't think there is any sort of worry that, and that is true for all across the cadres. Again, people say कि एक cadre अच्छा है, एक cadre ऐसा कुछ नहीं. In all cadres, you're well taken care of, and you truly become क्या बोलते हैं सरकारी दामाद in that sense of the term, and they provide you all the decent material comforts. Yes. But could you have a more pinpointed question, like when you ask what is a life like in IAS?
So, the question included what are your roles and responsibilities and what is your daily routine?
Right. So daily routine, so yeah, is again like you leave for the office at around 9, stuff like that. So matlab, you will have to lead by example. So people keep telling you that people don't turn up on time in government offices. So I personally try to make sure that I reach the office by 10 because that's when the office starts. So you will have to lead by example. Obviously, if you slacken, then other people will also slacken. Like I've personally seen it in my staff also. Like for instance, if there was a week where I would go to office at 10:30 every day, and they had already started coming at 10:20 instead of 9:50. So that is a culture that so you will have to take it upon yourself to kill the. You'll have to take it upon yourself to keep a more discipline in place. You'll have to hold yourself to higher standards, and also like people around you would be looking up to you because you're straight from the state. You're in an all India service, and they expect higher standards from you. So that is something that you should be doing anyway. There are no fixed hours, like I said. So, and there is just too much work. So you can give yourself as much work as you want. But there are days, obviously, when you want to take it easy also. So, classic from 10 to 7, at least you need to be on the field or with the files. And then you can come home and you can also try to brainstorm about some of the issues. And there'll always be some files, some tricky files, which have some pecuniary aspect to it, which you'll have to brainstorm before signing, whether due process was followed or not followed. Because once you're actually in the chair, it's your responsibility at the end of the day. Uh, and roles and responsibilities keep changing. So we start off as SDMs. That is the first posting that we get. Is a subdivisional magistrate. So magistracy is always very interesting because you have 3 roles. So you are obviously in charge of the whole of revenue department. Then you also act as an executive magistrate where you dispose of land related cases which are governed by the revenue code, and each state has its own respective revenue code. For you, instance, UP is governed by UP Revenue Code, which came out in 2016. And there are lots of other laws. For instance, there will be the Zamindari Abolition Law, and then there will be the Rural Sealing Law. So lots of reading that you'll have to do. And when you're working as executive magistrates, then you'll be disposing of cases, and then there's the law and order aspect to things. So, for instance, if you have a religious festival coming up, so then you will have to go out in the field with your partners in the police, with your equal partners in the police. For example, ADMs would go out with ACPs or DCPs, since Prayagraj is a commissionerate now, and then you would also look out after the security arrangements of things. So it is, and almost everything that you can think of comes under your ambit. For instance, just this is the season for food procurement. So now you have to ensure that food is being procured in a fair manner, free manner. You don't want people hoarding. So, and then at the same time, while you're dealing with this, apart from your daily duties that I mentioned, then you'll be expected to also, for instance, there's an outbreak of dengue. So you also have to look after that. Then you have to also look after, let's say, stray cattle. So lots of everything under that you can think, and everything that is concerned with governance will end up coming to your table. So you'll have to coordinate all that. Yes. We can move to the next one.
Thank you, sir. So, if I ask about your college, so how was your college life at Shaheed Bhagat Singh College? And all
Hmm.
things had you done in college, like the societies, the competitions, etc.
Right.
And do
Right.
you think your years at college helped you in UPSC?
This is one thing I keep telling everybody, like, please do not compromise on your college years. They are the most important years of your life. And there's a reason ki there's college and then there's competition. I mean, even UPSC asks you to like get a goddamn degree and then go for preparation. So a lot of people start joining rows and whatnot and Baji Ram in first year of college, and they just end up having a bad college life. And you also tend to get burnt out by the time you're done with college. So you end up neither here nor there. I think college is a very, very formative experience. You should use it to build your personality, do a lot of reading, hang out with friends, have a good social life, participate in a lot of debates and quizzes if possible. And abhi to matlab it's all only getting better. I mean, the college seems to be having a very vibrant uh, co-curricular scene right now. So uh, college college should entirely be built on personality building. I mean, college is a time when you should do a lot of reading. Like I'm not talking about the parties and all. वो I am hoping आप लोग खुद ही manage कर लेंगे. That I leave it up to you. I'm talking about the other productive stuff that you should be doing. Like you should be doing a lot of reading. Like for instance, I meet a lot of people who ask me कि how do you deal with essay? So essay is not something that you learn to write overnight. Essay is something कि आपने कितना पढ़ाई की है. That is the culmination point of things. Like how broad your horizons are, how many perspectives you have in life. So you can't learn it over life. You can't do it by rote. So if you've like done a lot of reading in college, this is the time to read literature and to have a good personality. Watch a lot of global cinema and do everything that you can. So then you will have a perspective of things. Then you will have references that will come in handy during your essay, or that will come in handy during your personality test or the interview. So I mean, college life is something I don't think that should be compromised on at all. And if you do your college properly, subconsciously you do end up learning a lot of things. I remember कि just the first simple ma'am mentioned she taught me colonialism, right? So I'm sure the simple ma'am would be she's still teaching a lot of you, and she must be having the same pedagogy also, and which is very helpful. So she dictates these notes at very high speed. Okay, so he dictates these notes, and I would diligently, keep writing them down, keep writing them down. Sometimes it would even not make sense to me. Obviously, I'd go back home and revisit them sometimes, and then it would all make sense to me. But that writing habit, right? So mains mein, what is your biggest battle? To finish those exams. Okay, so subconsciously, if you're just in the habit of writing, then you will automatically would have learned the art of writing fast and comprehending fast, because you're also supposed to comprehend what she's teaching in class, right? So if you're writing and comprehending at the same time, then automatically your brain over the course of time gets conditioned to write fast, process things fast. But if let's say you haven't done a lot of writing in the 3 years or 5 years of college that you're in, then what happens is suddenly if you sit down to do answer writing, you'll find yourself that it'll take a lot of time for you. So it'll give you that head start. So I think if you just do your college properly, or for instance, if you do your political science course at college properly, then you will be spared a lot of time preparing for optionals. Just I personally never studied for my optionals because I loved my discipline, and मैंने 3 years in Bhagat Singh and 2 years at Jamia when I did my masters. I did it so properly that I never, like, for instance, like, nobody believes me when I say that I wrote my optionals without actually looking at my options. So I just went and had a free flowing because I knew the discipline so well. अभी बल्कि मेरा 1 साल से छूट गया है, which I really regret. I would rather like to be more associated with the discipline. So if you do that properly, the half your syllabus is anyway done. So, matlab, and you just read newspapers and do your college properly. I think that's more than enough. Yes, and apart from, and what are the things that are done in college? I think apart from the normal things, like ma'am mentioned, there was a federalism, conclave. Apart from that, I was also active in the quizzing scene. So I remember I had this friend in the commerce section, and we used to do some quizzing together. I remember we used to go to SRCC and all that. Back then, there was the not so many opportunities at the college, so whatever we could manage, we'd do it on our own. But abhi to yaar, you should try to do as much as you can. If there's debating, if there's a healthy debating scene, you should try to participate there as well. Can we move on to the next one, please?
All right, thank you, sir. So, as we all know that this journey is very challenging. So, what all challenges did you face during your UPSC preparation and now as an administrator?
Yeah. So I have always maintained, and I would continue to maintain, the UPSC, the exam is not just a test of your intellect. I think it's a test of your value system. और अगर आपने while you're preparing आपने जो value system build कर लिया, जो लोग थोड़ा थोड़ा people who are preparing might be the initiated ones, उन्हें पता होगा, जैसे वो जब भी ethics के पेपर में वो जो values लिख के आते हैं ना कि यूपी कैसा होना चाहिए administrator, should be honest, he should be conscientious, he should be मतलब hard working, जो भी whatever कहते हैं, you should try to imbibe. Obviously these are all mirage things, you can't really have them in entirety, but you should try to imbibe these things. So जैसे एक one of the values that has really stuck with me, or I would really, is equanimity. Equanimity is to be able to deal with both pleasure and sorrow with the same composure, I think. तो ये अगर आप एक वैल्यू सिस्टम का मतलब अपने अंदर रख लेंगे, तो देन इट विल रियली हेल्प यू विथ योर वैल्यू, विद योर एग्जाम प्रोसेस आल्सो, एंड इट विल आल्सो हेल्प यू विथ बीइंग एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर आल्सो. क्योंकि बिकॉज एग्जाम प्रोसेस में क्या है कि यू विल हैव गुड डेज एंड बैड, कि आपका कभी प्री भी नहीं निकलेगा, कभी आप इंटरव्यू तक पहुंच के वापस आ जाएंगे. तो इट एग्जाम कैन बी वेरी वेरी टफ एंड डिमांडिंग इन दैट सेंस. एंड so but if you get perturbed by it, like I see a lot of people getting perturbed by it. So I personally, a lot of times people ask me like, how did you get the fuel to go on for so long? I did not ever find it tough, because I think equanimity मैंने जल्दी cultivate कर ली थी. I knew what the right process was. I just didn't do it. I always knew what the right process was. I just didn't do it. So when I knew कि when I'll apply myself to the process, I'll be able to do it. तो इसलिए, और ऐसा भी नहीं है कि अगर आपको जैसे बहुत ज्यादा सक्सेस मिल रही है तो आपको बहुत ज्यादा खुश होना चाहिए. सिमिलरली फॉर इंस्टेंस एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, कल मैं अगर 2 जगह काम करता हूँ एंड दे पब्लिश इन द न्यूज़पेपर कि इनने अच्छा काम किया, तो तीसरे दिन वही सेम पत्रकार विदाउट गिविंग अ थॉट और विदाउट ब्रेकिंग अ स्वेट वो ये भी डालेगा कि इनने इतना बुरा काम किया, है ना. सो इफ यू गेट सो हैप्पी बाय इट, सो हैप्पी, और so if that is one value system I really would want people to have, is that of equanimity. And then second thing is again one thing that I really learned from my classes at classes in the department is critical thinking. Critical thinking is very important. So are you applying yourself? A lot of times what happens is we tend to pedestalize ourselves also, or we get into this egoistical attitude. Because I've met the most brilliant minds who have not been able to clear this exam. And because what they don't do is they don't do critical thinking. For instance, if you have one approach to answer writing and that is not working for you, then you should always be willing to revisit it. Okay, where am I going wrong? Right? Or if, like for instance, I was not able to clear 2 prelims back to back. And despite a lot of people telling me that you should do a simulated mock exercise, like you should sit down and you should know how to handle the pressure. But I always thought that on the D-Day I'll be able to handle the pressure, but it doesn't work like that. It is something that you learn over the course of your time. Like how do you sit down with a prelims paper? How do you spend 2 hours with it? And because on the D-Day it'll be very difficult for you to fill those bubbles up if you've not done it properly in the past. So, but if you are not critical with yourself, so then it is going to be very difficult. Similarly, if you're not critical with how you are as an administrator, you are expected to make decisions, and some of those decisions will be right or some of those decisions will be wrong. But if you're okay saying that, okay, this is something that I shouldn't have done, or how can I do this better, then I think you will progress both as an aspirant and as an administrator, I think. And also, you should always be an aspirant. You should always want to learn more because there's a lot to learn. Hmm. Right. So next.
Thank
So
you,
I'll
sir.
just
That
take the
was a
challenges.
beautiful.
I will just take the questions myself only. I'll not bother you guys. If there's anything else, then you can tell me. What all challenges did you face? This one we've done. What was the timeline of your UPSC preparation, right? From start to end. Right. So, in 2017, towards the end, I graduate. I was after my post graduation. In last year of my master's semester, I ended up clearing JRF. And like I mentioned, my love for the discipline, so I also was levitating towards the discipline. So I was between two minds whether should I prepare for the exams or whether should I go for a PhD. So 2018 to 2018, the whole of 2018 I spent with myself, where I wanted to decide whether I want to do PhD or whether I wanted to do UPSC. So that is the year I just did a lot of reading and I would spend time. And PhD में मैंने एक दो जगह applied also. I applied to JNU and DU, and I would always get through the written part and all that. But for some reason, and life had better things in store for me. That the PhD thing did not materialize. I could not finalize on a mentor, or if I had a research topic, they were not on the same page as me. Sometimes like that, something like that. So then in 2018, towards the later end of 2018, I started preparing. And then in 2019, I gave my first proper attempt. And 2019, I cleared pre also. Then due to some personal reasons and all, then that year could not clear mains. And after that, so there was a break in the preparations for 2 years. Then I wasn't preparing properly. And again, I started preparing properly in 2021. 21 I prepared properly, then I gave it in 22, and then I could clear pre and then the whole process also. But when I was not preparing also, I made sure that I gave my attempts because it is very important to get rid of your attempts. And some very wise person once told me कि मोक्ष 6 attempt के बाद ही मिलता है. ठीक है, तो I don't want ना तो मतलब for somebody कहते हैं but I would not want you to get into that trap. ठीक है ना, you should honestly give 2 or 3 attempts, and then if it's not working out for you, then you again critical thinking कि आपके अंदर if you are able to identify what is wrong with your process and you think you can do it in the next time, then you should go for it also. And then also you should also revisit the question whether it's really the right job for me or not. कि कहीं आप Instagram reels देख के तो यहाँ पे नहीं आ गए. So stuff like that. You should do a lot of critical thinking in that sense. You were also teaching political science at Lucknow University. So how did you manage preparing alongside for the CSE? Yeah, this teaching assignment was a very fortuitous one. And I worked very briefly there, almost for a semester. I mean, slightly lesser than that. And things were meant to be. वैसे कह सकते हैं, as soon as I was done with mains, this 2 posts opened up in Lucknow University. Since I was just done with mains and I prepared for political science anyway, I applied. And then, luckily enough, I got that position also. That position really helped me in a lot of ways for 2 reasons. That firstly, I realized that for people who are just giving attempts, once you have a job, once you've done enough, once you have the base, you can manage preparing along with the job also. Right. And then it gives you a lot of new reinforced energy. And my job was anyway in consonance with the job I was going to do also. Like anyway thought that I had amassed certain amount of knowledge, and instead of just whiling away time at the house, it's best I go and help people out. I mean, I was sure I could tell them a thing or two. Like all my exposure at DU and Jamia could help people in Lucknow anyway. So I just wanted to contribute positively to the society while I was waiting for my results, and that is why I took up that assignment. So, but it really helped me with my interview also, because if you have that on your CV, then it looks good. Like it is again वही वाला जो बात है, जो value system है आपका, integrity वाला या honesty वाला, कि if you keep saying that I want to contribute meaningfully to the society, but what are you doing about it? So they asked me why did you take this job now? So I just honestly told them, so the opportunity presented right now, so I am taking it right now. Had it presented itself earlier, I would have definitely considered it earlier. So it's simple as that. So I just wanted to, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you get to interact with such new minds and such new faces every day, and you get to learn from everybody, and you also get to learn a lot about challenges because government places are government institutions present you with a microcosm. So you get to see the diverse aspects of society, and so it was a great learning experience for me.
Thank you,
Preparation was
sir.
never difficult for me along with the job because it was just interview that I was preparing for. If you can share one case as that you handled as an officer that was interesting and enlightening for you. Okay, so I'll just share what I'm working on currently. So I have a block right now, or I'm working on something called the saturation approach. So our strength is the money. For all the developmental works, we get a lot of funds from the State Finance Commission and the 15th Finance Commission, right? So, and there's a lot of other funds, for instance, the Swachh Bharat Mission, for through which we can get RRCs or we can get a lot of solid and liquid waste management plans built up. The issue is that मतलब interdisciplinarity की हम लोग जो बात करते हैं जैसे so for instance on paper it looks very easy. Like you have to create a Miyawaki plantation, let's say. You want to create a Miyawaki plantation or you want to create a new school or an Anganwadi. But what are the issues that come? Firstly, the funds. Okay, now you have the funds. Secondly, now you need a land, right? For land, you need a Gram Sabha land that has not been occupied by any, which belongs to the Gram Sabha, which belongs to the Gaon as such, which belongs to the Gram Panchayat. Thirdly, you will need the help of the police because usually there is somebody, some feudal element over there who has occupied that land illegally. So, and we are very understaffed. Government agencies are very understaffed. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to bring all the developmental teams, the revenue teams, because it is the Lekpal who will go and identify that this parcel of land is free. And then thirdly, it's the police which will help you out eventually making sure that you get some developmental things made there. So what I'm trying to do is now I've identified these 10 places where we want to create a social, something of social. Uh, so I don't know till what point could you guys hear? Somebody could just tell me till what point was I audible?
Yes, sir. You were mentioning the different factors that are important, like economy, funds, with regard to that local and all involved, then policing.
Lekpal, not Lokpal.
Yes, sir.
So yes,
Sorry.
yes. So so I think I was asked about the challenges or one interesting assignment that I would be taking up. So this is a assignment that I chose to take up is to saturate my blocks with as many developmental infrastructure as possible. Okay, and and there's a reason I'm sharing this because a lot of times we get lost in creating stuff which seems very innovative and nice, but might not be very meaningful because we need to have that balance between policy design, and policy effectiveness. Right. So when you're making the choice, be cautious about what are the things that the people like. For instance, when I go to my blog, my target audience is rural people. Right. So if I make them an app which they are not able to access, or if I start putting up billboards with QR scanners on it, that is something that they're not going to use. Right? Toilets are something, Miyawaki plantations or something. Yeah, for instance, a simple playground for kids. Yes, so I'm getting a lot of playgrounds made for kids, and it is good to see them using that. So I think that is a conscious decision that we should make, and we should understand कि it's a lot of times what happens we make these decisions about grand schemes which don't have a lot of on ground effectiveness. And the whole purpose of being on the field in the early years in life is you understand what is the real need of the society, so that later when you get into policy decision making roles, you can use that on ground reality and experiences to make meaningful policy decisions. So I consciously try to keep it as simple as possible and as meaningful as possible. I'd like to go to my gram chopals. I like to sit down with the people. I like to ask them what do they want the most. And it's usually just nali and kharanjas. To be very honest, it's just a simple ki jal nikasi jisko kehte hain, a simple nali which will make sure that there's no waterlogging problem in their gram panchayat. It is something as simple as that, and I like to focus on the basics like that. I think we just once we have enough infrastructure and enough enough infrastructure to go around. I think once we have a good school and a good playground, that will solve a lot of problems. And I think that's how I like to approach these problems. Yes. What's the next one? Many people say that the work-life balance gets disturbed in the service. What do you want to say? Well, it's a conscious choice you make, but I think this is one of the services which provides a great work-life balance in that sense, because your hours are sort of flexible. And the mornings are usually free until unless you get into the IPS. IPS is one particular job, because I can see Simple Ma'am laughing because Ma'am knows very closely, and I also have a police officer in the family. So until unless you have an IPS in the family, then your work-life balance might get distorted a little. Even then, I think everybody learns to work a way around it, and your mornings are usually free. So it's not as difficult as it's thought to be. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done, and you can give yourself as much work as you want. But you can also find that work-life balance. So it's a very conscious choice you make, and I think it can be achieved. It's not a big deal at all. Obviously, once you take up any assignment, the first 3 to 6 months are more crucial. For instance, in the case of All India services, if you join a new district, for in the case of another central services, if you let's say your department gets changed. For instance, if somebody is working in GST and suddenly he comes to the investigation side of things. So naturally, it will take you the first three months, 6 months are going to be tougher because you'll have to make yourself familiar with new laws and stuff like that, right? So once you have done that, then things get relatively more simple. So it's just usually the initial teething period where it can get impacted, but I don't think it gets impacted in the long run. Many people say, how did you prepare for PSIR and what were the sources for it? Like I said, you are in very, very safe hands. Just hound your faculty members to give you as much knowledge as possible. I mean, I to continue to hound them even after my college days. They were kind enough to check my papers for mains. So I think there's enough guidance on the internet. It's just stick to the basics. Get a copy of UPSC syllabus and focus on that. You'll be doing most of it in college. Most of the topics, subtopics you'll be covering in college. So if you work hard right now and if you have good notes ready, it will be very easy for you eventually. What, according to you, helped you crack the examination in the fifth attempt? Did you find any loopholes or changes in earlier strategy? Yes, there were many loopholes, and I was aware of them. It's just the implementation part that was a little difficult for me. So, like I said, कि one of the value systems, जैसे जो कई सारी values उसमें एक अच्छी value थी humility की, ठीक है? तो मतलब sometimes I would like to believe I was a little arrogant about my approach. I thought कि मैं बिना आंसर लिखे भी आंसर लिख सकता हूँ, which doesn't really work out in life, right? Like you can't really play soccer without playing soccer. So you have to get in there and get it done. You have to put the minimum hours that are necessary. So like, matlab, I had my strength. My analytical skills were very strong, and I would like to believe I had my strength. But you must be more conscious of your weaknesses, right? So the hubris should not get in the way of what the process is. So everybody knows what the right process is. है ना? It's about are you doing it or not. ठीक है तो say for instance मतलब it's not like I was a big slacker, but मैं पढ़ने I would let's say start reading something else, and then I would say कि नहीं आंसर राइटिंग तो कल कर लेंगे, but again एक balanced personality ढूंढता है यूपीएससी जो ये भी कर ले और ये भी कर ले. तो वो balance क्या है कि when you read X, then you also do a Y amount of answer writing. So for me that was an issue. Similarly, if you are focusing on your strengths and weaknesses, like जैसे daily diary writing बहुत लोग suggest करते हैं. There's something I've wanted to do, I've not been able to do yet. But if you sit down at the end of the day and if you really reflect for 2 minutes, कि what did I do right and what did I do wrong, you'll get honest answers. पर इसीलिए daily diary writing कोई करना नहीं चाहता because you'll get honest answers, right? So if you really sit down and do that with yourself, then it'll be really helpful. What, according to you, how close do you work? How closely do you work with politicians, and what do you have to say about the political interference? You obviously work very, very closely with them. They are the elected representatives. I think much more is made out of it than it really is. They are also people, and they're very, 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 very decent human beings. And I have always maintained that their job is much tougher than ours. They have to get re-elected every 5 years. Also, I think they are much more accessible to the people because they are always on the ground. So I always see them as a source of great information. I always see them as people who have not been able to find who have not been able to find grievance redressal through the course of the system who go to them, right? So let's say if a local MLA comes to calls me up, or a local MP calls me up and tells me that somebody has not gotten a death certificate and has been circling around my office, let's say for the past 1 year. So it's a good thing, right? He helped me identify a genuine person who was suffering, and I can now reach out to that person and get it done. So that is one more people that I've helped. So, and matlab, the nature of the interaction is very, very cordial and very professional. Even if they ask you, they just ask you to look at a matter. They will never ask you to get a particular thing done. You can always tell them that there's a limitation of law. It's not legal. You cannot do that, and they'll not hound you. A problem happens when people are not willing to lend them an ear. है ना? So you should be willing to lend them an ear. You should not be, again, वो जो humility वाली बात है. If you just accept कि they are at the end of the day your bosses, they have been voted in by the people. और मतलब a lot of people are dismissive ना कि people don't know या people are illiterate. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. We have a very very sound electorate and they are very very smart people who vote people into power. It's just because हमारा privileged existence है. We are living in urban centers. We have had things easy. So we don't understand how rural dynamics work, right? So अगर कोई तो if you, I just see them as a great source of uh, information. So I have a very very cordial relationship with all the political people that I interact with. I always tell them that you should like call me as much as you can and let me know if there's anything more I can do, right? So thing. And there's no political interference as such. I mean, if they call you up and ask you to look into a particular case, I would not like to call that as political interference. That is, they're highlighting a particular issue that needs your attention. Uh, that's it, I think. And matlab, if you're clear about what the boundaries of the law are, they're not going to push you at all. I have not had that experience at least. Yes. What kept you motivated during the preparation? Again, your motivation has to come from within. It can be anything, whatever works for you. Which are the areas where you would like to work? Also, if you can brief us about the problems in those sectors. Okay. So I have environment is something that is I've been very very close to, which has been very very close to my heart. I think it's a very very pressing issue also, and it is something which impacts the most marginalized sections in a very very cruel way. For instance, the worst impacts of climate change are felt on agricultural productivity. With very small land holding sizes, it's our farmers who are getting impacted the most. Amongst them also, it will be the women who will get impacted the most, right? For instance, if a family starts getting poorer day by day, and with the patriarchal biases that I have, it's the female child who's going to get dropped out of school, right? So a lot of it, I think, climate change is a thread which binds us all, and that is a field that I'd like to work on. Again, I would like to work in a policy making role in the environmental sector, and I would also like it once you get into the job and before the job. So I hope you can understand it, like how you understand interdimensionality. Yeah, when you read somebody like Judith Butler, and when you understand that there are a lot of issues at play, right? So it is not like we operate in silos, or we can have a very strict solitude approach to anything. For instance, if I say I want to work in the environment sector, a lot of it is also born out of my concern for agricultural productivity, social inclusivity. So it's not like one particular sector that I would want to work in. I would obviously like to use my domain knowledge in one particular sector to help as many people as possible. So that is how I see it. And if everything goes right, then usually you can help people across various sectors through one initiative. And if you like identify that critical intervention point well, then it will be very like for instance, a simple act like food processing can help us make have ramifications across many sectors, right? So I'm still figuring out what are those critical intervention points, what are those small things that you can plug into the system and make it more productive. How is life at Labasna? Okay. And what advice would you give to students who are currently in college and okay, I shouldn't go on record to say this, but life has been tough at Labasna after this one particular individual who was in news for a lot of wrong reasons. Before that, life at Labasna was very, very good till the time I was there. Again, it's very, very hectic. You're supposed to go there at like 6 in the morning. You have your morning PT, and then you have like this string of classes that go on till 4, 4:30. And then you have a lot of like you have guest speakers and all happening, but it's usually normal classes. And then after 4:30, it's usually people hit the sports complex, and then there's a lot of social mingling that happens around till late night. And then again, it gets difficult to get up early in the morning. But anyway, this is how life is. But I think that is a very, very good learning curve because what it does is it really prepares you for your life on the field. A lot of us who have not worked before and suddenly get on the field can find it very overwhelming to suddenly start working from let's say 9 in the morning till 12 at night. And then again get up at 4 in the morning. Say, for instance, if you have a PM visit or a CM visit or a high profile visit happening, you might come back to your house at 12 and then again you might be expected to go back at, as early as 5 or 6 in the morning. So that time in Labasna really uh, inducts you into how your life is going to be as an officer, at least in the field days, in the early field days. So I think it's a great learning experience like that. Otherwise, it's a very, very, it is in Masuri, it is beautiful. You can go trekking or baki insider stories so you can get in yourself to find it out what it's really like. I mean, the kuch cheezein are best kept secrets. So it's good if you get into Lavasana and figure it out yourself. What advice would you give to students who are currently in college and aspiring to be civil servants? Make the most out of your college. I think that is if you do not have a base. I mean, one of the reasons why this preparation was never overwhelming for me or never daunting for me at any point of time was because I think I did my schooling and my college very properly. So once you have a firm base, you can always build on it. But if you do not have a firm edifice, then it's going to be very difficult for you to go back and retrospectively fix things. Right. So if you can really use your time right now very, very productively and have a good base and you can, one thing you should really do is UPSC, but you should try to understand the philosophy of UPSC. UPSC एक ऐसा exam है that you I pay 100 rupees or 200 rupees to apply for it. Right. The nature of the exam is inclusive. They are never going to ask you questions from a source which is not accessible to everybody right from Tawang to Kanyakumari. Right. So they are always going to have they want to create, like if I was in the UPSC, if I am going to go on to become a member of the UPSC at some point in time, I would like to create a level playing field so that all the citizens of this country have a good chance of applying. I would not want if somebody who comes from certain sort of privilege should be the only one cracking this exam. Right. And so, what are the two most accessible resources? One is the newspaper, and actually, it's the internet now. The internet has everything. Right. So, they're never going to ask you questions कि कोई तुम rootledge का compilation पढ़ा है तुमने वो? Have you read this Oxford handbook? Right. So, they are always going to focus on the basics. So, if you just read the newspaper properly and you apply yourself, like, do you, like, for instance, if you apply yourself, if you're reading about repo rate, reverse repo rate, if you're reading about IPOs or FPOs, how are they happening? And and then, so you move from the international section, let's say what's going on in the Middle East, and then you move to economy. And I'm talking about these things in such a generalist terms because I'm very, very ill-read right now. Otherwise, I would have given you much stronger examples. But if you're able to connect the dots, how what's going on in Middle East is impacting how we are deciding on monetary policy, right? And what are the debates that are happening in the GST Council? So if you are able to connect them, then your battle is won. Anyway, if you look at the papers, they're never going to give you a question which is out of any book. You will have to apply yourself on the spot and write an answer on the spot. And the better you're able to connect different dimensions of our socio-political, economic, cultural milieu. So the more you're able to connect all these aspects, the better your answers are going to be. Right. How a simple international policy decision regarding agriculture taken at WTO will impact our last farmer down here, right? Or how a phytosanitary measure imposed by Europe will have economic, ecological, and social ramifications for the society at large. Is if you're able to connect the dots like that, then the battle is going to be very easy. And this is the time to be able to be doing that thinking. बाकी तो किताबें तो यार पढ़ ही लोगे. You'll be able to do it in 6 months. That's enough. Yes. Think that brings
I guess
us.
we are done with questions from a questionnaire. We can take questions from people in the meeting. Those who have questions, they can either put their questions in the chat box or they can raise their hand.
I think that was a very, very loquacious session anyway. Find it out. Yeah.
जिसको भी question
I think
पूछना
it
है ना,
is invaluable for our students. Thank you.
Very kind, ma'am.
एक second. Shubham.
Okay, Shubham, you can ask your question.
So, hi, sir. So, my question to you will be like you discussed that college life, you should be making most of your college life. So, which societies you can like say that help you groom or help you make a whole of your social life or help to grow in your college life?
Yeah, but I really loved quizzing. Quizzing is something that I've done from school days. But quizzing is good. Debating is good. Then Bhagat Singh also has a very good, matlab, despite being in the heart of the city, it has decent infrastructure for sports as well. So I think, I think these are the places where you can, apart from that, whatever you like, Shubham, like to dance it out. You like to sing it out, sing it out. Whatever you want. I mean, there are no right answers. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
If anybody has question, तो अपना raise करो hand या chat box में डालो question.
Yes, well done.
1 second, Ashwadam. हाँ Ashwadam, आप बोलो.
First of all, thank you, sir, for the session. My question is like, as we are the students, we are motivated for joining the UPSC courses at the beginning. So my question is like, जैसा कि हम लोग को पता है कि मतलब फर्स्ट ईयर में आपने जैसा कहा हम लोग को थोड़ा एंजॉय करना चाहिए, क्या ये हम लोग के लिए अच्छा रहेगा कि सेकेंड ईयर से अगर हम ज्वाइन करते हैं तो बाद में हेल्पफुल रहेगा हम लोग के लिए कि फर्दर स्टडीज में कि प्रिपरेशन में अच्छा रहेगा, एक पहले से प्रिपेयर है हम लोग सेकेंड ईयर से ही?
क्या ज्वाइन करते हैं?
सर कोर्सेज जैसे कि आपने बताया कि हम लोग कोर्सेज ज्वाइन करते हैं, उसके लिए ऑनलाइन या ऑफलाइन कोर्सेज जैसे ज्वाइन करते हैं
मैंने तो ऐसा वैसे कुछ रिकमेंड नहीं किया कि कोर्सेज ज्वाइन करते हैं. पहले मतलब फर्स्ट क्लैरिफिकेशन तो फर्स्ट ईयर के यार तुम्हें लाइफ लॉन्ग खुश रहना चाहिए. ठीक है, so you should have fun and you should be happy चलते हैं all the time. But secondly, मतलब I think that question you're trying to ask is कि whether we should be joining any coaching or not. So yeah,
Yes, sir.
coaching is मतलब again like coaching is like everybody knows it's only 20% of the job. कि जो पहले क्या होता था कि there used to be an information asymmetry. तो बहुत सारे लोगों को लगता था कि कोचिंग जाके आप जा सकते हैं, बट नाउ यू हैव द इंटरनेट एंड व्हिच हैज रियली डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड एवरीथिंग, डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड इंफॉर्मेशन. यू कैन जस्ट गो ऑन द इंटरनेट एंड यू हैव x number of toppers talks and strategies. Most half of them will tell you can go to a coaching, half of them will tell you we did it on our own. तो कोचिंग मतलब ऐसा कोई एक्सेस इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं मिलती है. आई जॉइंड द कोचिंग, but I'll tell you the reason why I joined the coaching is because मुझे लगता था कि at least then I'll have 2 hours of that day I will be disciplined. कि वहां जाऊंगा, I'll see 100 other people, it will only motivate me to do more. So if you have the resources and if you don't mind going, like a lot of people want to get out of the house also. जैसे आपका कॉलेज खत्म हो गया है, so with college so I don't really recommend it. I don't recommend it at all. But after college, if like first year drop, you really want to do it, and if you have the resources, आपको कोई ऐसे आर्थिक constraint नहीं है, तो then तो अगर आपको लगता है इससे आपकी मदद ही होगी, तो उससे कोई nothing bad is going to come out of it. Like you can quit it after 3 months. But coaching से UPSC कभी नहीं होता है. Like if you get into a coaching and मतलब it is something you should be very clear why you are going to a coaching. कि ठीक है मतलब घर से निकलना है, कुछ 4 लोगों से मिलेंगे, you'll feel good, maybe it will get me into some sort of discipline, there'll be weekend tests, तो इसी बहाने मैं पढ़ लूंगा. So if stuff like that is there, so then you can join a coaching. बाकी all the information is there on the internet. Test series are available for free on the streets. So it's up to you.
Yes. So I got my answer. Thank you, sir.
So first of all, it was a very wonderful session. And so my question is, like the UPSC journey is very consists of very highs and lows, and it is very demotivating sometimes. So, उसमें how do you keep yourself steady? कि हाँ, I need to crack this no matter what or any other problem I face. So yeah, this is my question.
So yeah, again, I think I sort of answered it with the word equanimity कि आपको समझना पड़ेगा कि आगे भी आप कल बन भी जाएंगे तो आपकी लाइफ में ऐसे हाईज एंड लोज आते रहेंगे कि मतलब इन टर्म्स ऑफ पोस्टिंग या चैलेंजेस या जिसको भी जैसे भी आप तो दैट इज समथिंग दैट यू विल फेस ऑल अलोंग मतलब दैट इज समथिंग सो यू शुड बी एबल टू टेक योर फेलियर विद अ पिंच ऑफ सॉल्ट है ना एंड इट इज ओके टू ग्रीव पहले कुछ दिन रोइए ठीक है उसके बाद कि okay I didn't get through then take your time sit down with a stable head and see what all did you do wrong ठीक है like you can revisit कि मुझसे गलती कहाँ से हुई and if you get your answer and then you can revisit the bigger question also there are two things first of all you need to ask yourself whether you really want to do it or not ठीक है if you really want to do it कि मतलब motivation ही नहीं आ रहा but just because you're doing it under peer pressure or family pressure then you need to put your foot down and ask yourself what is it that you really want to do and if your question isn't if your answer is in the affirmative कि okay I want to do it so then you need to ask yourself कि what did I do wrong ठीक है and then obviously you'll have answers you'll get honest answers कि this I did wrong this I need to fix and then you can get on with fixing it and then you'll be happy again I think I don't
Thank
know
you,
I
sir.
hope so.
Thank you.
Rishabh, you can go with your question.
हेलो सर थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दिस सेशन मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि लाइक जो भी हम पढ़ाई करते हैं उसको इफेक्टिवली रिवीजन कैसे करना है शॉर्ट नोट्स है लेकिन फिर भी कुछ और आप बता सकते हो तो
यार एक तरीका है कि then you can use sticky notes अपने बुक्स पे जैसे like I would say कि for instance if I was doing history so multiple times like I'd say if I read a book then एक तो first of all आपका पढ़ाई का तरीका थोड़ा organic होना चाहिए for instance if you're reading history then right from ancient to modern it should flow to you like a story तो एक आपको फिर जनरल एक आइडिया हो जाता है ना कि ऐसे आर्यन आए फिर ऐसे वेदास आए फिर ऐसे कहते लैंग्वेज का डेवलप हो सिटी सिविलाइजेशंस दिस इज हाउ सिविलाइजेशंस केम इनटू बीइंग दिस इज हाउ सिटी सेंटर्स केम इनटू बीइंग दिस इज हाउ द medieval टाइम लुक लाइक देन वी सब इन्फ्यूडेशन ऑफ लैंड हुआ देन कहते हैं स्मॉलर टेरिटोरियल प्रिंसिपैलिटीज केम इनटू बीइंग देन वी मूव्ड इनटू मॉडर्न टाइम्स तो एक स्टोरी की तरह अगर आप क्या जाते हो तो फिर बुलेट पॉइंट्स में व्हाट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन रिड्यूस इट इनटू पेजेस so I think all of my history notes were like in 50 pages 50 odd pages I think 15 पेज 50 नहीं है 30 odd pages 10 pages of ancient 10 pages of medieval and 10 pages of modern so then you could just go through it like that obviously being students of political science आपको polity and all में काफी help मिल जाएगी so you will not it should be at the back of your hand एक जो sense होता है polity का that comes to you what is the essence behind DPSPs what is the essence behind F fundamental rights and all that so that will help उसके अलावा यार I think notes writing and sticky notes this is what people do people also use a lot of apps on the internet these days there's Evernote and all that you can use to effectively revise stuff but then again it's up to you how it works for me it's the simple old school note making that works for me
Sir, can we
Okay,
take
thank
one
you.
number of questions, sir?
no, I think we should wind it up now
Yes, sir.
if that's okay I mean if there's a very very pressing question then please go ahead and ask otherwise we should
Maybe the last question.
yeah, sure ma'am please.
Yashwardhan.
So thank you for your enlightening session. And so my question is like, um, how do you like sir develop your writing skills, and what tips would you like give for someone working to improve their writing skill? And like, what are some effective strategies for writing concise yet impactful answers in the mails?
So writing skills, दो parts हैं. I'll break your question down into two parts. The first is writing skills. How do you develop writing skills? And the second one was how do you write concise yet meaningful answers in mails. So first part is writing skills. Writing skills comes from a lot of reading. How else will you be able to write राइट जावेद अख्तर सेज ना कि पहला शेर लिखने से पहले आपको 1000 शेर कंटेस्ट होने चाहिए. So unless you don't know, you've done a lot of reading, how will you write? So just do a lot of reading. Suddenly, obviously, with UPSC preparations, you can't just start reading a lot of other fiction, non-fiction, whatever it is. वो time नहीं मिलता. So एक hack है that you can do is if you look at uh, uh, newspapers, Hindu and all में अच्छे book reviews निकलते हैं. So you'll get central thoughts उनसे. Otherwise, literature sections निकलते हैं. But there's a lot of internet पे, YouTube पे there are a lot of channels which review books. देर आर लॉट ऑफ जैसे चलचित्र टॉक्स है उसमें आप अच्छे इंटरव्यू देख सकते हैं. कुछ ना कुछ क्रिएटिव साइड ऑफ थिंग्स डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव पे पढ़ने की कोशिश करिए. न्यूज़पेपर ही अच्छे से पढ़ेंगे आई थिंक तो इट विल ऑटोमेटिकली सी योर वोकैबुलरी एंड राइटिंग स्टाइल गेटिंग बेटर. एंड बिकॉज न्यूज़पेपर ऑल्सो हैज समय या स्पेस का लिमिटेशन, so they also try to be very precise and crisp. So agar it's precision and brevity that you're looking for, then newspaper is the right place. Also, you have people from different streams writing. So, सिर्फ editorial या opinion मत पढ़िए. Also, go to their creative sections where they write about books and review books and all. That you can do every now and then. If you're not in the habit of reading, then you can pick up lighter books and you can just try to read a little. That will help you better your writing. For writing meaningful answers in mains, I have always felt that people try to not answer the question and just vomit a lot of points in answers. I think they have asked you a question, they expect you to give an answer to that question. So I think you should take your time in reading the question. I mean, if you read a question and the first thing, you should try to identify what is the issue that they're talking about. Let's say if they're talking about communalism or casteism, or if they're talking about depreciation at large, so what is the issue that is. So introduction mein, you should be able to tell them that, okay, I've identified the issue that you have tried to, or the case that you want me to elaborate upon. And then you can obviously introduce that problem or the context that they're talking about. The body of the answer should have a lot of pros and cons and analyzing it and deconstructing it. कि इसमें क्या अच्छाइयाँ हैं बुराइयाँ हैं कि इससे क्या अच्छा हो सकता है, how can we better it. And then conclusion should be your opinion on the matter. कि ये ऐसे ठीक हो सकता है, या this is what I feel about this issue, or this is not a good thing, this can be done better. Problem is if you just do not have any opinions on the matter, then you just, okay, they asked you, you told them 10 points about Surya Ghar Yojana. And what is your analysis from the section, I think. So if there's no analysis, and if there is no attempt to understand the problem at large or provide a solution, or at least your opinion. Solution तो हम नहीं दे सकते, हम क्या ही है कि हम solution देंगे. ठीक है, there are like so many brilliant minds applying themselves to solve world problems. So we are just a cog in the wheel. So we can't have definitive solutions. At least we should have opinions about problems. So I think people, if they try to have a more organic approach to answer writing, that will help instead of just giving points. कि देखो ऐसा ऐसा. Yes.
Simple, ma'am. I mean, you can deliver a vote of thanks now.
Not necessary, ma'am. Thank you for that.
So, yeah, sorry, I misunderstood. So, thank you, Anubhav, for this your valuable time. I mean, it's been more than an hour, and students have fired questions at you, and you have answered so painstakingly. And it's someone who has won the shoe, who can tell from experience, right? So you have given them first-hand experience of the preparation process, the highs and lows of it, and so on. So thank you so very much for your time today, and it was really interesting even for me to listen to your experiences during the service and how you handle the political establishment and so on. So have a wonderful day, and thank you all very much. Thank you, Magazine Committee, for taking this initiative for our students, and thank you, students, for being there today.
Yes. Have a great Sunday. Get out.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
Get out and have a good day. Like, you go to a park or something. Yes, ma'am. Good. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, ma'am. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.